All right, what's going on, Whisper Nation? Welcome in to the NFL Draft Reaction Show, Round 2 edition. We're not going to go the full 4 hours or however it might be tonight. Last night we can speak to that as well. But as you can see on the screen, we've got a couple colleagues with us. Johnny, myself, the Fantasy Whisperers, joined here by Mac from Snap Fantasy Football Podcast and Ryan from the Fantasy 5 on Twitter. He's also with the club Fantasy FFL and writes for the Fantasy Footballers. So
left the footballers. I'm with football guys now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wow.
Dude,
shots fired, dude.
Hey, Ryan, remember when I told you when you were on that Big Travie doesn't listen to, or like he doesn't read the comments? That was in that show. So
look, some of us are clearly the talent, and some of us actually have to do the behind.
It's fine. I'm still friends with everybody over there.
Yeah.
Decided it was time to look for something different, and partnered with Joe Bryant. I'm over on with football guys now.
Well, we love football guys. We love the ballers. We love you guys here. Mac, we'll ask you first. What's going on in your world, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Last night definitely was a grind. I was saying to the boys on our stream, I was like, look, I appreciate the Thursday. It really helps to, jumpstart the weekend. But like, let's start this thing at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And after like the first 20 picks, let's trim that shot clock.
Yeah.
It feels like they in previous years, I felt like they did that already, like where these later picks came in faster and they have the drama picks up front, even though those should actually be the quicker ones because usually we know more at the top of the draft.
Right.
But it just seemed like that whole thing kind of dragged. And, for us, we stat out skill players. And if there's only X amount of skill players going in that first round, then it gets a little bit gruesome for us. But appreciate you being on here, Mac. Ryan, how you doing, man? What's going on in your world?
Same thing as everybody else, just watching this draft, trying to get ready for these stat projections and all the fun stuff that's going to come with fantasy football, checking landing spots. But yeah, last night was fun. I think the thing that made me most upset was how did the Jaguars take all 10 minutes? Like that was ridiculous.
Been on the clock for like 3 months.
So of all the egregious, because I understand everybody else was waiting to hear if they got an offer, especially when Aaron Rodgers put himself in play earlier that day. Mm-hmm. But the Jaguars, there was no excuse. Like you make the pick and you move on, man.
Even the Jets, man, that thing has been cemented for quite some time. Like Trey Lance at 3 was really where the draft started, but it should have just been like, look, the Jaguars, you've been on the clock since, February. Let's just, as soon as Roger gets up there, let's just have the card in because it's no secret. We know what you're doing.
Let me ask you this. Do you think at all any of the thought process behind it is just simply from a marketing perspective of being like, yo, let's get them to talk about our franchise the most or as long as possible, and before we like turn it over to like this, even though I guess in the same frame of mind, like people have been talking about this number 1 pick for like the last 3 months and what they're going to do. So it's like at that point, it's just like you guys said, get it done, get it over with. At least we know what's going on. We know what you guys are doing.
We wondered if the NFL promised like teams to give them time to run ads and everything because they pay to have the draft already. So the money is going to ESPN or wherever you're watching. So we wonder if they did that on purpose. I do want to throw out, I have the draft on the left side of me here. So when you see me looking, I'm paying attention, not paying attention.
Yeah, I got to get mine on too.
Yeah, that's where we are. Mine is also to the right, and it's funny. Travis and I were like, getting our show notes and stuff together, making sure we're ready, and then like just 2 minutes before we got on, we're like, oh wait, we need to actually turn on the NFL draft. Like, we were all ready.
The thing we're going to sit here and talk about, we should maybe have on the screen. Yeah, that might help.
Would it be helpful?
So we have Lando in here, obviously Mac's partner over at Snap, saying 100% agreeing with Johnny's take on the marketing and just the way you want to try and put your team out there and showcase them a little bit. That makes sense. A lot of these teams that can't win on the field have to win in other ways, and part of that is winning at the draft. The Chicago Bears believe they did that last night with Justin Fields, an aggressive move to get up and get Justin Fields. Huge. We'll see. It's still the Bears, so we'll figure that out. But I don't want to bury the lead too much or kind of beat a dead horse, so we'll try and do a little bit of balance here. Mac, I got to ask about Aaron Rodgers. It has to be talked about. You're wearing the jersey. We're kindred spirits, Green Bay fans here. Give me your take. Give me your hot take on Aaron Rodgers here and what's been progressing here.
This is still a relevant jersey, folks. It's got some merit. For now.
For now.
I think whatever happens with Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't happen this weekend. I don't think he's involved in any trade. I don't even know what his trade value is at this point, like a 38-year-old quarterback who's years from retirement. I think it's optimistic to think that Rodgers has like 5. He's probably got 2 to 3 at best. And I think the Packers just kind of have to play hardball here. It's like you dig your heels in, you make them play, or you force them into hosting Jeopardy for the next 20 years. So I don't know that he's in a position to. I mean, I'm coming off the MVP, certainly warrants a bigger contract, but we gave that money to Aaron Jones, stupidly. We could have just franchise tag him, locked Aaron up for the rest of his career, and it would have been good. But we made those mistakes, and we didn't appease him last night taking Eric Stokes either. So I think Rodgers is going to be sort of forced into playing. I don't think he's going to be happy. I don't think he's going to get traded.
Luckily for us, Aaron Rodgers, a pissed off Aaron Rodgers, seems to do well for the Green Bay Packers purposes, and much to the chagrin of the rest of the league. I will say a couple of notes on that. The Aaron Jones thing, I wonder if they were making that play. We all heard his press conference after the NFC Championship. He thought he wouldn't play with Aaron Jones ever again. Yeah. And so I wonder if they just said, you know what, we'll pony up and pay the money to keep him happy. And he just called him on their bluff and said, I don't care. Use that money there. I really don't care. I don't want to come back here. Schefter said something interesting last night, saying that should he hold out, he would actually have to owe the Packers money.
Because there's no more guaranteed cash.
Right. Yeah. But then Pro Football Talk obviously had the post June 1st timeline is now what's being talked about is, the deal makes more sense for the Packers on the books because the dead cap money actually comes down by about half if they do the deal after June 1st. So a lot to still happen. And I think to Mac's point, that jersey stays relevant at least for another 24 hours.
Well, what I like about that date too is if Julio Jones is in play, he's in play after June 1st.
Right.
So you're going to have that, hopefully, a last ditch effort, and that might be trying to make a deal for Julio. Yeah. At that point, that has to bring Rodgers back to the table, you would think. So
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I would hope so, but we'll see. I'm just not surprised anymore. I thought we were okay. After the draft, I heard what we heard last year's draft. I heard what we heard, and I was like, oh, the media is just trying to run with this. But then you kind of heard Rodgers throughout the year. Then I thought we were okay. But, this changes fast.
As we're kind of still on the green and gold, I selfishly just want to ask you, Travi, was Eric Stokes your top corner on the board there, or did you have somebody else in mind? Because I did have corner as the position.
Yeah, I think that was good. I've heard some good things about Stokes. Character-wise, he fits Green Bay in a lot of ways. The SEC, you like him being from the SEC and having that top-tier competition. There's a lot that I like about Stokes. I obviously sometimes on these draft nights, as a fantasy football person, I want to see a skill position player. And we've been wanting to see that for the last 9 years or whatever, but we haven't seen it.
Since 2005 when we grabbed Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. And then Jordan Love was the next one. So, it's just for me, I would have liked to seen a skill position, but I also I think they were in a hard spot. They draft the skill position player. It's like too little, too late. Yeah. They don't help Rodgers. I just think there's all sorts of stuff here that could happen. I like Stokes. I think we need it. You definitely saw Kevin King got burned a lot last year.
We brought him back too.
And we brought him back, but we ended up getting Stokes. So we'll see. The secondary, we're going to need a really, really, really strong defense, especially if Rodgers is gone. So
I really wanted to see either Asante Samuel Jr. or Javon Holland. Those were my two pieces, and different.
It was Asante Samuel I wanted to. I was like, I mean, if you're going to go corner, that's where I would have went. I don't know that I would have went corner, but I felt like that would have been a better pick.
Are you a Browns fan or a Packers fan?
Me?
Yeah, Ryan.
Oh, neither. I am. No, I was a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. I actually named my son Donovan after Donovan McNabb. When everything went down the way everything went down there, it kind of broke my heart. I root for my fantasy team now. So I root for all teams. Good football is all I care about. So
love it.
Fair. Hey, listen, Ryan, there's plenty of room on the Cardinals bandwagon, dude. Come on over.
I don't know why you'd come over there, dude.
Yeah,
I was the bottom of that division. That's really tough, dude.
Whoa, dude. Okay, right now San Fran is in a little bit more trouble than we are. And but I will say that I was not happy with the Cardinals. Like similar, like I wanted a corner. Like give us a corner that's on the board instead
Patrick
of a
Peterson.
linebacker who. Do we need a linebacker? Yes, we do, but we could have gotten one of those later in the draft.
Right.
And so that was a little bit frustrating on my part, but unlike any other fantasy football player, I wanted to see an offensive weapon potentially for Kyler Murray, but they're saying potential in the second would be Elijah Moore. We'll see if he falls that far. I don't know. He's a speedster. I would like that, but yeah, some exciting stuff in the second round.
Yeah, we're going to have some stuff to talk about. We have some stuff to even get into about last night, obviously. I want to say what's up to Whisper Nation in here. Killjoy saying, yo, my guys. Lando, obviously, from Snap saying, yo, Cats. It's been a minute because Cats Pajamas in the chat as well here. So we
was
love
with us all night last night.
Yeah, appreciate Cats Pajamas, man. One of our favorites out there. And then Lando wanted to give a shout out, and you can find the description or the link for Snap in our description here. They're a partner of ours, and they put a video out on ETN how he's ranking the Dynasty rookie drafts now with some of the first round action. So I'll ask you guys, obviously, that was Lando's video. Mac and Ryan, how are you guys ranking? Give me the top 5 for maybe the rookies. Do we have enough? Did we see enough last night to rank top 5?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I did my rankings this morning.
We're talking one QB, obviously.
Yeah. Let's roll with that. Yeah.
Go
ahead, Ryan. No, you go ahead.
I have Chase at 1. I did have Javonte Williams as my RB1. Najee with the opportunity in Pittsburgh, I moved him up to 2. Williams, I'm keeping at 3 for now. ATN at 4. Pitts at 5 are my top 5 at this point. So,
yeah, I'm going to be very similar to Ryan there. I did like Devontae Smith to the Eagles. I'm not going to lie. That was a nice landing spot, I thought. Gives him, that connection with Hurts. He's basically coming in as the alpha. It's not going to be Jalen Ragg or anybody else. Right. So he comes in. I like that. Jalen Waddle is a slight downgrade for me. Rashad Bateman was my number 2. He's a big downgrade.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
That's RIP there. So I think I'm really close to Ryan. I'm reserving my thoughts about Javonte. If he goes, we could see him off the board, maybe to the Jets.
Number 4,
maybe to the Falcons with Mike Davis as the lead there. That would be those would be 2 decent spots, but it's going to look very similar to Ryan's, maybe a tiny bit of a different order. But yeah. I didn't actually love Najee to Pittsburgh.
Oh, I love this. I love this take because me and Johnny got a little bit into it just about where his ADP would fall last night because Johnny was taking some recency bias with CEH last year, going as far as the first. Connor himself last year going in the second in a lot of drafts. So where do we think that Najee Harris winds up ADP-wise, and will it be valid? And a lot of people really saying, yeah, we love the fit a lot of times, but that offensive line giving a lot of people pause.
Yeah.
It's the problem. And they haven't really had anybody in recent because they've tried to fill this hole behind James Conner, right? They've done it with Benny Snell. They've done it with Anthony McFarland. They tried Jalen Samuels for a bit. Like, it just hasn't worked. And I don't know if it's the running backs they brought in just haven't been special enough to overcome the line, or if the line is just beyond, any success. So I love the opportunity there for Najee. I don't love what he's running behind. And I think the Steelers really got to get some pieces in play. So I in terms of redraft, I don't really know yet, but for Dynasty, I think he was the clear-cut one, and now there's definitely some pause there. We could say Jamar Chase at 1 certainly makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of in with Ryan there.
I was shocked how far he moved up. I've not projected every team out, so just gut reaction. Yeah. I was looking where I would take. And basically, when I look at rankings right now, I look where would I take them. I moved him up to RB12. I think that probably puts him middle second round. I get the whole O-line thing, but I think this kid's going to be able to run. And more importantly, one thing I like, especially with big goal line type backs, the Steelers have 3 wide receivers that could get pass interference on the first or the 1 yard line. And those are easy touchdowns for Najee Harris at that point. And I think he could I think we could be looking at double-digit touchdowns as a rookie.
Yeah, some of the Matthew Berry was on Instagram or on ESPN talking, and he said some of the opportunity basically was based on the fact that Pittsburgh was low. Since Le'Veon Bell, the last 3 years, they've been bottom 5 in a lot of the running categories.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why that means Najee Harris is going to be so good. And to me, that means, like, how is the supporting cast around him? Like, you haven't been able to put people in there to fix it. Are you just putting it all on Najee Harris's back to go fix it because the opportunity, like the pendulum should swing? I just feel like the opportunity may not be there for a team that we're trying to think is the team of 2-3 years ago offensively, and really maybe isn't. So that's my concern. And maybe I am a little burned by CEH last year going that high and kind of burning us all. And maybe I got to get past that a little bit. But I do think that Najee Harris will probably be a bit overdrafted for my liking in redraft.
He definitely will.
That was my whole point on it, is not necessarily I believed Najee should go in the second round. It was that fantasy players are very quick to react to and find like easy trends, right? And
we're quick to forget this struggle too.
Right.
The Steelers line wasn't that bad. Like, Najee's going to be great because he's a rookie.
Right. But my whole thing was that, and you can, like, we'll plug in the numbers, right? And they'll be wherever they are. Najee is a top 24, whatever we get, right? We haven't gotten to that point. But what the common player will probably come to suspect was that, hey, there were a lot of fantasy analysts out there that were saying last year James Conner is a sleeper pick in the second round because the opportunity is there. And the average fantasy player is probably not going to say, okay, well, like, what were the issues and why could they not happen again, or whatever, what have you. There is more risk in it, right? And that's why we do think, he should probably go in like the late third, early fourth, because the upside could potentially be there, but we also know the downside is that they can't efficiently run the ball, and that they've struggled with it the last few years.
For me, Najee Harris is a great prospect. He's not Jonathan Taylor. He's really, like, I think I would take every back up until Antonio Gibson from last year over Najee.
And that was my thing. We were talking about if he belonged in the second round, and there was miscommunication last night in our argument, obviously, but like, I think, which happens sometimes, of course. But in the second round, I would take that grouping of those second year backs that are in the end of the second round or have been going in our mock drafts before Najee. That's
take them all. Yep.
Yeah, I'd take them all. And I think it's like, Austin's case was the mystery box, and I get that, but you have the mystery box in all of those guys, in Cam Akers, in J.K. Dobbins, even, who we all believe, I think, is probably going to underperform based on where he's being drafted. But I'm still probably taking J.K. Dobbins ahead of Najee Harris just on pure upside alone.
Absolutely.
And so
Dobbins is the one I would take over him. Me and Johnny talked about this when we did a show a couple weeks back, where I actually like Dobbins. The other ones, I think I'm going to go down as a DeAndre Swift hater this season. I love DeAndre Swift. I do not believe Detroit is going to be a very good football team. And I don't think.
But now you get Penei Sewell.
You didn't hear that. How dare anybody come on this show and insult the one and only DeAndre Swift?
Not insulting Swift, insulting the team around him.
Yeah, agreed.
Sewell's a hell of a pick, though. I think that's going to be a nice one. So
yeah, I can't believe he fell. I was so giddy for Swift because of that.
Even Jared Goff, man.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Tyson Campbell out of Georgia, a cornerback again, going here to the Jaguars. So this makes sense based on the offensive weapons they selected last night. They're probably going to go some defense, fill the other holes that they have.
I wanted to look back at some previous drafts and see if a team that had 2 picks in the first round ever went back-to-back skill position players.
I can't
think of one in recent memory.
Yeah. Usually you're trying to balance it out, right?
Did the Raiders last year when the Raiders had the Mac pick, did they go? I felt like
they had the defensive end from Clemson that was a reach,
Cleveland Farrell,
and then they had Josh Jacobs, and then
they had a third pick in that.
Yeah, I don't think it was a.
Did they trade out?
I can't remember.
Two things last night. John Gruden continuing to shop at Alabama is hilarious, and was Alex Leatherwood the worst pick in the first round in terms of reach, or is
a lot of people are giving. a lot of people saying Kadarius Toney, but then Toney was a guy that was climbing up people's boards late. So I don't really know.
I don't understand.
It feels like everybody's split on Toney.
The one that was crazy for me, I didn't even recognize Peyton Turner's name in all of my research. He did not come up, but it's hard to call number 28 a reach. So I would say it has to be Leatherwood, but Peyton Turner, I'm not a big college guy. I researched going into the draft. He didn't come up in like any of my first round stuff. So,
see, I thought that Travis Etienne, while it's like fun, I thought it was a bad pick. Just because of what was still on the board, and they probably could have just taken him there.
Right.
That's to start the second.
They must have thought somebody else. Well, and especially when Urban Meyer's coming out saying like we're going to use all three. Like,
oh yeah,
probably put Tebow in there too.
Hey, which, by the way, hold on. I do want to say I want to take a TV timeout here, and I do want to say on our show, we like to gloat and stuff when we get things right, and like
you do.
Stuff. But I want to take this moment and say, like, hey, we got something wrong. And kudos to Mac. Hey, golf clap to you.
What's funny is like he did. Yeah, we posted that video on Instagram. You guys can check that out. Mac definitely on one of our mocks a couple months ago calling the ETN pick. But he was just saying in the same breath, he thought that it was a reach too, like because he thought they'd get him in a different pick. So the position itself may be a reach, but definitely something we thought was a possibility when discussing James Robinson. And now James Robinson truthers all over the planet cannot be found anywhere.
Lando's just he's like, wait, what? You guys don't always agree?
Yeah. No,
here's why I'll say that the Kadarius Toney pick wasn't that bad. I think who they ended up drafting was awful, and I don't understand why a senior guy with 1 year production warrants that pick. It just doesn't make sense. Like, he got boat raced in his junior year by Kyle Pitts, obviously, and Van Jefferson, like 500 yards behind. It wasn't even close. And we know what Van Jefferson has been at the next level. But what they did, like, they were actually smart. Gettleman traded back. He got a first, 2022 first, a fourth,
traded in
and a
division,
fifth.
right?
And yeah. So I thought that they were smart in moving back, but there's so many better players.
Oh man.
And I thought at that point, like, go get like a Greg Newsome. Go get a corner, because I had them mocking JC Horn if they kept that 11th pick, and he went early, and they could have traded back and got just as good of a corner, and they went Kadarius Toney. Bust. It's gonna be a bust. I'm just gonna say it now.
All right, so Mac, we've been having this discussion. We had a little bit off air with Ryan here about Kyle Pitts. Obviously, in Dynasty, we love this. We love Kyle Pitts regardless as a prospect. What can you tell me about redraft prospects this year, where you feel like he can actually line up? Because this doesn't happen for rookie tight ends. Like, it just does not happen.
No,
do you think he could be the exception, or do we think we need to stay off of him like we normally do with rookie tight ends?
This is uncharted territory, but I can tell you one thing for certain: he will be overdrafted.
Yep. Yeah.
And we always say this: we love players, we hate ADPs, and I think Kyle Pitts is going to be a guy that I'm not going to draft. I'm going to trade for, because when there are growing pains, when there are acclimation problems, you're going to go at week 5 or 6 and you're going to make a trade for Kyle Pitts. You're going to scoop him, stash him, play him when he's got it going.
I think that's one, and we talked about picking him up when somebody inevitably gets frustrated, maybe dropping him too. But make a run for him when he struggles inevitably as a rookie. Darius Rice asking if we've been to sleep. Guy, I've been doing my fantasy homework. Yeah, that's definitely felt, dude. I tell you what, man, nothing compares to the mock draft marathon. But last night was trying to scratch a little bit of the surface. I was like, man, dude, like this is like giving me the same kind of feeling. It was a grind, but it was a lot of fun, man. We had the community in here rocking and rolling, and I know you guys were doing your own individual streams.
Yeah.
It was fun though.
Oh,
I want to
say,
is this
Elijah Moore to the New York Jets here?
Wow.
So the Jets kind of doing some things here, trading up for the tackle, getting Zach Wilson, and now Elijah Moore to add a Denzel Mims, Jameson Crowder. And
Corey Davis.
Yeah, Corey Davis.
Does this end? This ends Crowder, basically, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Joe Zolo has been calling him a possible post-June 1st cut, or maybe it's Josh on my show. So I think this kind of starts to solidify that I think Crowder's gone.
Yeah. I know it was like there was some questions as to whether they really wanted to bring him back or not. So maybe he's probably I mean, they always need depth, and he's like I think he's an underrated wide receiver. I just want to real quick, I vetted the NFL teams with 3 or more picks or 3 picks in the first.
Mm-hmm.
I will just say I'm through 11 of the 22 teams, because apparently 22 teams in the NFL history has had this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down to 1984 with the Cincinnati Bengals, and have yet to find more than 2 just offensive players selected, like offensive lineman and a skill position. So I'm not even going to look any further down. It's not even worth it,
because we're not going to know who they are. Anyway.
It's been about 40 years.
It's very unlikely.
Wow. Yeah, crazy.
So Elijah Moore, Mac, talk to me a little bit about Elijah Moore. Talk to Whisper Nation what you think. Was this a great pick, good pick? Where are we at on this one?
I really wanted to see Elijah Moore in a Titans uniform last night. I thought put him beside his old teammate at Ole Miss. They picked up Josh Reynolds. You're gonna have him and AJ Brown working the exteriors. You could have Elijah Moore carve up the middle. This I'm not as excited about. I like Elijah Moore. His ability to separate, create that for himself is tremendous. He's a really good route runner. Probably outside Devontae Smith is going to be number 2 or shortly behind whoever you think is at 2. He's undersized, but very very talented, very sure hands. His pro day was fantastic. I think he's going to be a really good slot receiver for the Jets. It's just, can he carve out that role?
491 slot snaps, only 108 wide snaps. In his 2020 season. So yeah, definitely looking like he's going to be that speedster, kind of stretch the field kind of guy, which is a little unfortunate for Denzel Mims. I want to get what your guys' input on Denzel Mims, because he was very interesting to me as one of those second-year wide receivers that has the potential that, like, he never broke out in year 1, right? And yet when he was drafted out of college, or coming out of college, he was touted as one of these like elite prospects, and we just never saw it. So what are your guys' instant reaction to what this does to Denzel Mims realistically? Like, are you guys wanting to get any of this offense at all now?
I'm a Corey Davis guy, so I like Corey Davis, and I liked him with the Jets, mainly, again, at ADP. I think he's just going to be a huge value, because Salah's going to bring in a where he's not going to want to throw a lot, but he's not going to have a choice. They're not a very good team yet. What's interesting to me, especially with this pick, is the 49ers don't run a ton of 11 personnel. And so you would have thought that was going to carry over to the Jets. But if you're bringing in a sole slot guy, that's telling me you're going to be seeing a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. I almost think this hurts my potential Chris Herndon breakout more than it hurts Mims. I think it could work out well for Mims just because they're going to have to throw a ton. So
the forever breakout we've been waiting.
I'm still waiting with your Chris
Herndon.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was it. I'm like, you give me Robert Saleh, you give me a guy who respects the tight end. If they don't address the position in this draft, it's Chris Herndon season. And I was actually very anti Chris Herndon last year, but pages change. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, and rookie QBs love the tight end position.
Exactly.
You thought Zach Wilson coming in would just be able to pepper a guy like Herndon, who's the athletic
Not
tight
that
end.
he needs the targets, but just to touch on that, watching Trey Lance film, I don't think he looks at anybody but tight ends in the red zone. George Kittle could end up being a monster this year if Lance gets on the field. Like, I mean, legitimately, we might see Kelsey dethroned if Lance game translates from college to the pros like that. So
yeah.
Hey, we all heard Kyle Shanahan. He said he can't guarantee that we'll even be alive tomorrow.
Yep.
Let alone Jimmy G is on the roster. So it might be
was
week
ridiculous.
1. I know. That was the most insane
Dude,
thing.
that's some shit I would say for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's some shit I would say for sure, dude. Nothing's guaranteed, dude. Nothing's guaranteed.
I wish there would be a platform that would do this more like streamlined.
Yeah.
To where like people who are in a fantasy league could like upload videos like that more quickly or something, just answering questions about their roster. Like, Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't guarantee this guy's going to be on my dynasty roster. This,
guys. Javonte. So the Broncos trade into this pick from the Falcons and take Javonte Williams here. So
shout out to John Helmkamp, who actually mildly called this on our show a few weeks ago.
Oh, man. One of my favorite prospect at the running back position, now in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon, Melvin Gordon in his own right was such a bargain prior to this pick. This will be interesting to see where both of these guys wind up, but I'm not really surprised when you look at how they let Phillip Lindsay kind of go here. They didn't do anything to bring.
But this is the ultimate death to Royce Freeman, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. What's interesting to me about this is if you look at the way Denver used Lindsay and Gordon last year, it wasn't thunder and lightning. It wasn't any of that. They were straight up interchangeable. Yeah. So I don't think this kills Williams or Gordon. It obviously kills their RB1 chances, but it
gives them more pop.
Yes,
it gives them more pop in the Lindsay role last year, right? Because we love what we see out of Javonte Williams tape. At least I loved it, man. I was gushing over that tape. Man.
I really wanted him to go to Miami so badly.
Yeah,
the Jets.
I think this probably
Gaskin. His volume just his value just keeps going up.
I am so excited. I've held on to Gaskin everywhere for this exact moment where they just do not take a running back.
They're doing a smart thing, unlike Jacksonville.
Here's the question here. Who is the next running back that comes off the board that you could be excited about from a fantasy perspective?
I mean, I might not get a lot of credit. I might get flack for this. I like Trey Sermon. If he could get into a position, like I like the way he runs. I know that it's upright and it's a little weird, and that doesn't always translate well. But I think if he got into something like the Jets or even the Dolphins, the thing about the Dolphins is it didn't matter who they plugged in last year for the most part. They were productive. Salvon Ahmed in a few games too, putting in production there. So I think that there's some teams, and now with all those weapons in Miami, that's a prime running back landing spot, or Myles Gaskin. Ryan, you could just be sitting on a gem right there.
Yeah,
right
I hope
now.
so. One of the things I like about Miami is the guy was the guy. There was no guesswork. They leaned on the guy, whoever their one was. And so I like that for whoever ends
Except
up
for
there.
that nonsense where Jordan Howard gets 2 yards for
negative
the
3 yards and 2 touchdowns
somehow. That was
trash. But yes, other than that, it was all, in Gaskin or in Ahmed. What about you, Max? Same question back to you. Who's your next back? I know you were talking, this might be a little bit deeper. You're talking Kylan Hill, right? A little bit earlier in the offseason.
That's definitely a deeper pick for me. Ryan, did you say a name?
I think Gainwell. If Gainwell ended up in the right spot, I think he could do some things. So
okay, Gainwell for me, I am hopeful for as more of a pass catching back. He's just a little bit undersized for me. I'm not completely thrilled with him. I think Jamar Jefferson could be interesting.
He's an interesting guy. I like Stevenson. From
Andre
Oklahoma.
Stevenson.
Yeah. I just
best first name in the draft.
Right. I just think that he won
nice
the pedigree of Oklahoma Sooners running backs. We've seen that translate really well to NFL, and just his size and weight, 6 feet tall, 230. That is a big bruiser back. And I think depending on if he goes to a situation where you're like, hey, that's valuable, I think depending on that landing spot, it'll be interesting.
Well, the Dolphins take a safety here, and Javon Holland.
My boy.
Talk to us a little bit, Mac. You're definitely more in tune with some of the defensive players for sure. Talk to us a little bit about Javon Holland.
This was just a guy that I was wanting Green Bay to select. I thought that he has solid ball skills, very physical, moves across the field really, really well. And I just it was him and Asante Samuel that I was just kind of in on.
Yeah.
And not Eric Stokes. So I watched a bit of Javon Holland's film and not stoked about Stokes.
Did you have him ahead of Mooring? I'm not a big rookie defensive guy. Did you have him ahead of him?
I actually thought that he would be off the board at 25 to the Jags. I thought that they were going to take Trayvon Moehrig, but I think he's right up there in that tier of guys still available. I think it was a solid pick. I'm surprised he went ahead of Asante Samuel though.
What's our dream wide receiver scenario for some of these the picks to come here? We've got still Rashad Bateman still.
Samuel
Bateman went last night. Sorry.
No, Bateman's going to where wide receivers go to die.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry. Johnny was excited about that one.
400 pass attempt Baltimore.
Yeah.
Well, and we talked about or you mentioned J.K. Dobbins, Ryan. Like, I love J.K. Dobbins. I still would take him over Najee, but we can't neglect that Lamar checks it down the least in the league. Like, I think it was like just over 100 targets to the running backs. That is, at least for half PPR, full PPR leagues, that is a point of concern. Now, can we build upon that?
Dominated the rushing market share too. Lamar takes that rushing market share from you.
Is that the truth?
And JK last year wasn't even second. He was third on the team in market share behind Gus. And so everybody's comment about Dobbins is Mark Ingram, right? Mark Ingram's going to leave, but that was only 14% of the market share. So like really not a lot that's vacated there. Because he was hurt. So there's just like, I love Dobbins too. And I got him in Dynasty, but it's just not a situation you're that jacked about, especially when they love Gus Edwards so much to do the
I was going to say Gus Edwards could end up being the biggest steal in redraft this year.
Yeah. Here's the thing to keep in mind with this rookie class based on what we've learned from the past couple of years. It takes time to develop a workload, and these guys are not going to walk into jobs. I mean, Najee Harris might be the exception there, but is it going to be effective? Is it going to be efficient? I think the answer there is probably no.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah. And so, we look at like Jonathan Taylor, even, who coming off 900 carries at Wisconsin, was taken in the second round. Like, it took him 11 weeks to
and
get
it took
this
the
job.
schedule to break his way too.
And the schedule broke his way. And he started the year with Marlon Mack, Gonzo. So everything fell for Jonathan Taylor the right way. He's probably the best running back prospect we've seen in a couple of years. It still took him double-digit weeks to get in a spot where he could give you fantasy value. So
and how much of that was complicated with COVID though too, and the reps you're not getting in the off season as well. But same scenario. We've seen slow starts for running backs, slow starts for wide receivers. I don't think that it's that's the Najee Harris thing again. Let's go back to like why he'll be overdrafted, because there's all of that risk baked in, and for everybody to be thinking that he'll be Le'Veon Bell or even James Conner, just because he's in that offense. Right. Much worse offensive line than those two guys had.
Right, which is like the key. I think one of the key points that you'll end up hearing a lot in this upcoming redraft season is that, hey, if you want these guys and you're interested in getting these rookies, don't draft them. Wait and let somebody else draft them, spend the high draft capital, wait a couple of weeks, because they'll get either frustrated with them and drop them, or you can go in and offer them some low offer that, of a player that you either picked off of waivers or you got a couple rounds later that you knew was going to pop off, at least in the beginning. And then you make the trade then and get that player. I think that's something that I'll be doing in a lot of leagues. Probably not with any of you guys, because now you guys know. But that's a thing that I'm gonna be preaching to any of these, because you're so right. Like,
attack those bye weeks when they have a shortage at running back. Offer them 2 for Najee Harris, and all of a sudden you're walking out with a great deal. So
exactly.
All right. So Eagles pick is in here.
I feel like this is gonna be your boy Samuel Mack.
Yeah, I feel like I'm ahead of you guys.
You probably
know it already.
You probably are.
Yeah,
I'm on.
You should be calling it.
Well, what's funny?
I didn't want to be that guy. You can
do that.
This is your show. I didn't want to
break anyone's heart.
I've got both the draft on the stream, which obviously is subject to the internet, but then also on ESPN, so I'm getting it a little bit more real time than that.
Well, and I keep seeing Mac's reaction, and then I'm like, oh wait, what do I need to pay attention to? So
Landon
if
Dickerson.
you tell us live, it'll be better off that way.
Landon Dickerson, center out of Alabama.
We like this pick. What are we thinking?
I like it.
Mac? Good for Miles Sanders, presumably.
Good for Miles Sanders. Good to protect Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, good for Jalen Hurts. You need protection up the middle when you're that kind of quarterback. So.
So let me ask you guys this: with them getting Smith and now a center to hopefully boost that offensive line, we were kind of talking about this last night. Do you think it's going to be a point where, a trade alert?
Yeah,
Patriots trade up.
Bengals trading in.
Oh, so this was their plan. This was their plan to trade. They were going to get Jamar Chase with the first and then trade up to get an offensive lineman the second.
No. Bengals traded out.
Patriots they traded out.
Patriots
just came up.
Wow.
A few spots though, right? They were already
maybe middle.
They want Pat Freiermuth.
Oh,
3 tight end sets.
Oh man! Don't even joke. That's like probably what Bill's thinking too.
Oh boy!
It's like how you guys took Kyle Pitts in the top 4. I'm gonna get the guy in the second and have him have a better year with 3 tight ends. No,
I'm kind of shocked that the Bengals didn't go Tevin Jenkins there.
Yes, 100%. Exactly where I thought they would go.
Yeah, crazy.
But
they don't need to help Burrow in that way. He'll just throw it as fast as you can.
He clearly doesn't get hurt. What are we worried
I'm like,
about?
What the hell? It's like, did you learn nothing from Andrew Luck? Did you guys see what happened to Andrew Luck? Deny the line for as long as you can, and then go back and get it, and then watch him retire early.
Dude, pain is temporary. Yeah. But playing with your best friend is priceless.
Yeah,
dude. We should know we're on a podcast.
Yeah, that's fine though. Like offensive line, if you take it in the second round, but they're like, no, we don't even want it there.
Yeah, we don't want to hear either.
Yeah, no, we'll push it down further.
So we'll bring up the Bengals since they traded out of this and talk Jamar Chase. I know, obviously, Mac, you're enamored with Jamar Chase. We like this offense, other than the line issues. We like some of these skill position players. Or a lot of them. How do we think this actually impacts T. Higgins? Because I've heard it should be okay. T. Higgins will be all right, but do we buy that?
He's fine.
Yep. And that's because we're vacating AJ Green, who got peppered with targets. He just didn't do a lot with them.
101 targets, I believe.
Yeah, so those are gone, and then we've got an offense that hopefully moves the chains a bit more. I'm excited about
Christian Barmore.
Defensive tackle out of Alabama. Man, Alabama killing right now.
This is actually who I thought the Bucs were going to take last night.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And they went Tryon. Back to the T. Higgins thing. Like when an offense moves, when the chains move, it's just better for everybody. And there's tons of teams out there where we can actually start 2 fantasy wide receivers. Like had you started Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, you're fine, right? And that list is a little bit bigger than it used to be with how pass happy the NFL is. There's no reason why T. Higgins, who's a big red zone threat, Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd can't all coexist and give you value. You know, they're fine.
Along those same points, Pittsburgh and Carolina, Pittsburgh obviously started the season really hot, but Carolina, who was not a great team, each had 3 top 25 fantasy wide receivers last year. And that's with neither of their cornerbacks finishing as top 15 quarterbacks. So, you don't even necessarily have to have the right quarterback to make this work.
Yeah, great point, Ryan.
Super wild when you think about it. Yeah. Let me ask you on that rules standpoint. With them extending Sam Darnold, what do you think that means for not only like fantasy purposes? Does this give you more confidence in Sam Darnold?
You have to ask initially with both these guys. You got to ask, are we team Sam Darnold? Do we think he can make the turnaround? Do we think Adam Gase is the real problem with Darnold? Or, a lot of people think they saw enough out of Sam Darnold.
Go ahead.
I'll let you take it. Oh, okay. Right.
I'm a little worried, but I think if I want him anywhere, I want him with Matt Rule and Joe Brady. I think it's a great system for him. Clearly, it's a system that worked for fantasy with Captain Average Teddy Bridgewater. So there's the running joke that you don't be happy because you got the worst quarterback in football. But we all know Gase for 3 or 4 years running, ran the fewest plays in the NFL. Like Darnold was never going to succeed. He was always in bad spots. Part of that bad spot was his coach. He's not going to set the world on fire. I'm not Sam Darnold QB1, but I do think he's a playable asset, especially for someone like me who, if you don't manage to land a guy like Josh Allen, I encourage stream the position. There are going to be 3 to 4 weeks this season where I'm telling people to start Sam Darnold.
So it's exactly where I am with Ryan. He's a very streamable position. I actually think when you go down the laundry list of players that have escaped the stranglehold of Adam Gase and actually been relevant, it's wild. Tevin Jenkins. Yeah. So the Bears are providing some support for Justin Fields.
Wow, look at that.
Man, the Bengals made a mistake. I'm just going to say that right now. Mistake. Massive. Yeah, that was the one guy left on the board.
What they got? I mean, obviously it's just more picks, but I didn't see the details on the trade. But still, like,
I haven't seen.
What are they doing? That was the prime scenario for them.
Yeah,
to be able to get the guy they wanted for Burrow, and then also protect Burrow. And they're like, no, screw it. We're doing it live.
I mean, we're doing it live. Even Atlanta here, if they decide not to go defense, could go offensive line. So you're literally just passing up every viable offensive lineman.
And then not only that, but like maybe Joe Burrow.
They're back on in about 7 picks or so at 46. At 6 picks at 46. So maybe they think they have a guy there they like. I guess. But
no, dude, Joe Burrow convinced him. He's like, yo,
we don't need offensive line.
Yeah, he's like, listen, I went from 4 receivers to 5, and it was like night and day.
I want to run six wide receiver sets, dude.
He's like, how many? He's like, let's just line up 2 offensive linemen. I'll get the ball out in enough time.
Like the swinging gate. Yeah.
To circle back to Sam Darnold, sorry. I think he's well equipped. I think that he is a competent quarterback. I think he can make throws. I think his IQ is good enough. That Jets team, like, you want to talk about a team that was always behind the 8 ball. Like in Adam Gase's tenure with the Jets, they were outscored in the first quarter by like 256 points. Like, just ridiculous. They trailed in almost every single game. And they were actually top 5 in injury history throughout his time there. So Sam Darnold never really had a fair shot. They were never healthy, and Adam Gase just put him in a bad spot. So I have high hopes.
When you have, my whole thing is like, we know the history of Adam Gase and all that, but when you have him come out to the media and be like, yeah, I did nothing to coach him up, like, as a quarterback. Like, it's like, what do you expect from the guy? Like, how hard is it to do like your job without knowing?
I'm so convinced like that Adam Gase and Peyton Manning are just trolling the NFL, and Peyton's like, look, this is how much I can get inside the minds of everyone. I'll tell the Jets to hire you, and literally you didn't do anything. I got you this job, and he didn't do anything. You know, Ryan, you brought up that he ran the fewest plays. He kept coming out every year saying they were going to run the most plays in the league. Like, I've never seen someone so lost in like what he looks like or like.
It's like he doesn't watch anybody's games but his own. Like, he has no idea what the rest of the league is doing.
I think he just watches himself on the sideline. Like, he just literally watches himself coach the game. It's some ridiculous stuff there. But I want to go back to the Denver pick, because I don't think we're talking enough about how that wasn't really a need for Denver. And they traded up to get Javonte Williams. Where do we think where do we think the two of them settle? Like, Ryan, you mentioned still being kind of on Melvin Gordon because they were both usable last year, Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. Yeah. Are we going to get even more of a discount on Melvin Gordon now?
Oh, certainly. People who pay attention to the draft are going to be scared off. Here's the thing. I don't know. Javonte Williams didn't come into this process with the name recognition of Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. So when you start getting into regular drafts with people who aren't heavy in the industry, Melvin Gordon's name is going to carry more weight. You might end up getting the discount on Javonte Williams when you're playing in drafts in August, because a lot of people aren't going to know who he is.
Yep.
But I really feel like Gordon, you're going to see, for people who pay attention, you're going to see Gordon fall, and it's not going to be as bad as people are envisioning in their head.
So I appreciate that insight there, Ryan. The Falcons take Richie Grant here, safety out of UCF, with their pick. So maybe the Bengals survive, not missing
O'Neal.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the Bengals do. Maybe they'll trade out of this next one that they got to come up.
I think with what Ryan was saying as far as Javonte Williams, I do think that this is really, if you're a believer, like I think that he's a really good running back, and we all know Denver wants to run the ball, right? Mm-hmm. They want to kind of take the ball out of Drew Lock's hands as much as possible.
Makes sense. Maybe draft a
Right.
quarterback. I don't know.
Right.
Crazy.
But Mac and I were talking about this morning with another player, but it's kind of the similar situation in that it's kind of nice because his draft stock will be a little bit lower, and he's definitely a guy that I think I would definitely put on my bench or want to draft because he did show that he could be a really good running back, right? He was comped to like Nick Chubb and things, which might be a little bit of a stretch, sure, but you just know that system's going to run the ball. And we also know that Melvin Gordon isn't always the most healthiest running back, right? So it's like, I think that both of these guys are going to be one of those running back situations I would be willing to try to attack and grab because I think that they're both good values,
And if you take Williams, you need to have patience. It kind of goes back to what we were saying about with Najee. Najee's going to go too high. So you're unlikely to see patience from the manager who drafts him. So that's when you attack it. Williams is not going to go too high. You need to be the one who has patience because you're going to cut him in week 5 if he hasn't done anything. And then in week 10, you're going to be beating yourself up about it. So if you're going to take really any rookie, you need to make sure if you're going to draft them, you're ready to kind of give up a bench spot for the first month, maybe even month and a half of the season.
We also have to think, I mean, we're talking fairly nearsighted because this isn't a dynasty show, but if you are into dynasty football, keep in mind Javonte Williams is a year younger than ETN, and I believe like a year and a half younger than Najee, and like he's the only junior in this top 3. And Melvin Gordon's in his last year as a Denver Bronco with that 2-year contract. He'll be 29 at the end of the season. This could be just setting Javonte Williams up for the future of this backfield. So, if you're in a keeper league, keep that in mind. But for dynasty, like this is a decent spot. It just doesn't feel sexy for like redraft this year,
Right.
You'll be happy to know I was right. My co-host Josh just texted me that Jamison Crowder is done and laughed in my face about it.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Lions take. Do they take Terrence Marshall here?
Oh man, they do need wide receiver help. Big time.
I want Terrence Marshall to fall to the Cardinals. We have to have them fall to the Cardinals.
You guys will just take some bad linebacker.
So the Broncos traded back 5 spots and they improved their 219th overall pick to 114th. So
that's big.
It's good for 5 spots.
Yeah,
but they lost Tevin Jenkins, so we'll see what they do with that pick.
Yep,
that was tough.
I mean, and that's the other thing I was going to ask you. You set up really nicely there for dynasty potential owners of Javonte Williams, but you said it's a good spot. Why do you think it's a good spot? They don't have their quarterback, do they? Like, do we like Drew Lock? Do they have a line that we like? Do they have an organization that we like actually think that it would be a great spot to continue on with for running backs? Or just that the contract will be gone for Melvin Gordon, so he should be the starter mostly is where we're going.
It's more so of an opportunity position. Yeah, it's not a great spot,
right? but it's a spot with volume, projected volume once Melvin Gordon's gone.
Yeah, it's a notoriously run first team. The weather kind of plays into that they have to be for large portions of their season. I don't hate Drew Lock the way others do. He needs to get turnovers under control, but that's of everything you need to get under control. That's one that could possibly be coached up. What I don't like is they don't seem to be putting the coaching staff around him to try to change that. Yeah. So
fair.
They're like, here, we're just going to get you offensive weapons. And
we're just going to keep building the same exact team
fix
around
itself.
So.
Yeah.
I like Drew Lock. I think his arm was live. He's one of my favorite prospects in that draft, just as far as talent. And I kind of like the swag. I'm a big
when you look at his fantasy numbers when you look at his fantasy numbers on a game by game basis, he had some really big boom games, but unfortunately he had I'm pretty sure he was one of 2 quarterbacks who had a negative game last year. Like it was just some really bad games with them 5 interceptions.
I remember saying on a live stream, I was like, Drew Lock is a good play this week. And it was like one of the hardest things I ever had to say as like an analyst, but and he balled out that week because it was a good matchup. Like it was like And I'm not like, most analysts would probably say, hey, yeah, like this is a good start because of the matchup. But it was definitely skating on thin ice when I was giving that recommendation. I was like,
all right, Mac, you can announce this pick. I'll let you, man. Go for it.
You don't want to take you don't want to take it?
Yeah, I'm all right, man.
Levi Onzarike.
Oh, not bad. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That sound very simple.
Yeah, it's very easy.
It did spelled a lot differently than
guys.
the way it sounded.
I read attendance sheets for a living. So.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah.
Austin jumping in here.
What's up, Austin?
Ryan and Mac, what's good?
Hello.
Woo.
He joined us last night. Austin did for the stream.
Okay.
It was good. It was a good time. We were in here for that 4-hour onslaught of picks. Yeah, a lot of trades been going on in this draft.
Yeah.
It's been fun to see. And now the Dolphins back on the clock here. Maybe they break Ryan's heart here and take a running back, but we'll see. I don't know.
I think with JOK on the board, Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah, like how has he not been picked yet? And like this dude is a freak, athletic freak. They need linebacker help. I think they got to go JOK. Makes the most sense.
I wonder if they don't look at Dylan Radunz from North Dakota State just because he could play interior or exterior.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of versatility. Pick came in fast though.
Yeah,
they have somebody they like.
They know, I think they.
This is the pace that the first round.
You wanted out of the first round.
Yeah. Here's an idea.
Well, they've literally stretched it out to that big night event, and they're doing exactly what they want to do. It's just so grueling.
Oh yeah, and creating so much.
And then
drama.
we have like weird situations where Goodell's talking to some dude in an armchair.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's Goodell's armchair. It's Big Krabby is jealous. He's mad because he doesn't have it.
Yeah, do you think I'm wondering if they flew that out from his actual
They
man
did.
cave?
There was actually a story about it.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Liam Eichenberg got a Notre Dame.
Oh, all right.
So it wasn't the other Notre Dame guy.
No,
that we wanted. No,
we do have a trade though.
Oh, another one, man. It's popping off.
Raiders are coming up from San Francisco.
Yeah, they're going to draft another running back.
No, yeah.
All right, how many Alabama players are left on the board?
Right, it's got to be an offensive lineman.
It better be an offensive lineman, or they literally may not. You guys were joking about the Bengals starting 6 wide receivers. Vegas may have no choice. I've been joking.
Have to start at 4 tight ends.
Josh Jacobs is going to be a pulling guard for Kenny Jacobs in plays.
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness, dude, that would be
not good.
Very
good. Check this. So I'm looking it up right now for Drew Lock. Drew Lock air yards last year. 3,812, so 293 per game. Pretty good. Pretty 18th in the league. Check completed air yards though.
Yeah.
Different story. 1,543, which was 23rd in the league. So, I mean, getting Cortland Sutton back potentially for a full season could definitely help with that with his monster catch radius. But yeah, he's got to get way more accurate with the ball there.
Dude, like,
or stop letting him throw that deep. Like, I guess that's where you bring a guy like Javonte Williams in and be like, no, we're going to do, because Williams is a great receiver out of the backfield. And like, we're going to do things a lot differently now.
Right. You try to force him in like the Teddy Bridgewater role, who had like 50% of his total production yards after catch. Just give it like 7 yards and just let the rest of those guys, like Jerry Jeudy's very good. Just give him the ball.
Yeah. Well,
that's a coaching thing though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like Pat Shurmur is like, I think he's probably done like as a coordinator and has been probably for a few years.
Oh my God, he got talked up so much last year, but I witnessed the tragedy that was him in Cleveland, and I'm just like, no, this is not going to work.
Yeah, I just not a big fan. All right, so we got a couple minutes left before we're going to sign off here. I just wanted to pick it back to Mac and Ryan here. We'll start with Mac. The question I want to ask is, any of the rookies we've seen so far, any of these landing spots that we've seen, have the ability in redraft to be league winners for Whisper Nation, those out there listening? Anybody that's landed in a spot that can really break out and be a Justin Jefferson or a Jonathan Taylor or something that was able to just put us on the map last year, you know, Whisper Nation wants the juice. Anybody got the juice?
Funny enough, I don't think it's going to be anybody from the first round, just being that after Devontae Smith, we didn't see a whole lot. We didn't have that sort of back end group to pull from. Rashad Bateman broke my heart. He was sort of the guy that I thought might land with like the Titans, or even we saw the Colts in some mocks. Like I thought he had the ability to land somewhere and didn't. Terrace Marshall didn't go. So we're still waiting on some of those, but I'm still going to put my mark on like a deeper guy, like a Terrace Marshall would be good. I like Elijah Moore. I don't love how many options there are there, but you're going to draft the Jamar Chases and the Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddles high because of where they got picked. And that's not necessarily a sleeper pick, but Terrace Marshall, Elijah Moore would be two guys that I would keep the eyes on.
I'm going to go a little bit the opposite route. I think Smith, just because out of the sheer target opportunity you have, if we're looking for a guy who could, and he's not going to repeat, but a guy who did what Justin Jefferson did last year, you're not likely to have to pay a high pick for Smith yet. And so I think he could end up being a league win type. And the other one, and this is a surprise to me as much as it is to anyone who listened to me and Johnny a few weeks ago, we were talking about this before the show. I am starting to consider, and this is going to sound weird, Kyle Pitts, if he can level the playing field for a team out there at fantasy tight end. I've done my very early projections, and a path to 100 targets is very easily there for him. It's will the touchdowns be there? And if Julio gets traded, Julio doesn't score a ton, but that's going to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Touchdowns are what's going to matter. We saw Robert Tonyan as a top 5 tight end last year on, I think it was 55 catches and 12 touchdowns or whatever. Yeah. The touchdowns are going to carry you at tight end, but Pitts, you're going to overdraft him. Let's be clear. We all know it's going to happen, but you're still going to likely get him after Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller.
Yep.
So Pitts could be the guy that if you got to wait around, hopefully 2 rounds to add your tight end because you didn't want to reach on one of the top 3 and you were able to add the right running back and wide receiver in those 2 rounds, Pitts could be the guy who's going to be the game changer because at least you're not starting the week off 5 points behind at the tight end position. So
love it.
Yeah,
love
fair.
The insight. Whisper Nation's going to be stoked to take those nuggets with them into this regular season. Boys, we appreciate you coming on here. Matt, can you tell the people where they can find you and what you guys have been working on?
Social media platforms, YouTube, Snap_fantasy or the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. We've just been working on rookie stuff. We're going to transition into some dynasty stuff. And then, we'll probably hit the redraft mode come like July 1st.
Love it.
Landon and I have a big 14-team dynasty startup Sunday auction. And it's going to be cutthroat.
Ooh.
It's
you're going to be posting some feedback from that. We'd love to see some of that stuff.
I can share. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can
Prison
share.
rules, huh?
Superflex tight end premium as well. So there's a lot of different avenues.
Prison rules.
Prison rules. That's right. And
Ryan,
sorry.
Sorry.
Have you guys ever heard of Empire Leagues before?
I have not. No,
Ryan knows what it is. So essentially, the way that we're going to play this is because there's so many teams, half of the money gets banked for the Empire, and the only way that you can win the collected amount of money that's banked year over year is if you win the league back to back, or you win it a total of 3 times, and at that point, the league resets as if it was day one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It just incentivizes that long-term play.
It does.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ryan, same question, my brother. How about you? What have you been working on, and where can they find you?
So made the move to Football Guys. I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a slower article grind over at Football Guys. Thank you. So many writers over there. I highly recommend the subscription. Their draft kit's amazing. Big changes coming soon for them. I think you guys are all going to be really impressed with what Joe Bryant's putting together. So basically, to find my work at this point, you got to tune in Wednesdays at 7 p.m. with Club Fantasy FFL. We do a live podcast every week. We do the same kind of things you guys do here, where we're very active in the chat. We try to make sure we're not competing with anybody time-wise. You guys go on a little bit before us. FF Confidential goes on a little after us. So we got that little sweet spot there at 7 p.m. So come join us. We're great at fan interaction, and we'd love to have you. So,
well, we appreciate you both very much, and thanks for coming on here, and have a great weekend, guys. And we'll catch you next time. For Johnny Game Time Hicks, Mac, and Ryan, I am Big Travi. We're the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out. Peace.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified anytime we drop new content or go live. And if you're still not sold yet, check out one of these videos.